Hey guys, what's up? It's Rosa. Welcome to today's video. If you guys don't know me, hi, my name is Rosa and I'm just your average Disney-loving spooky girl next door. And today I am starting my podcast series. If you guys don't know, I'm kind of obsessed with podcasts. I listen to podcasts almost every single day, and I have a couple different types of podcasts that I like to listen to. So I decided, since my channel has a lot of different types of videos, to correspond each podcast video that I have up here with the certain video that I make. So today is a Morbid Monday, meaning we're going to be doing a morbid podcast episode. Be sure to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't yet, join the Briar Patch fandom, and we have fun here all the time. And let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we are going to go ahead and get started with my favorite creepy podcast. In the creepy category, I listen to a few different types. I listen to true crime and I listen to weird. So let's talk about the one that's right on my list on top, and this is called Hollywood and Crime. And I just found this one last week, and I'm obsessed with it. And the way that this is produced is it's kind of like, you know how back in the 50s and in the 40s stuff, when radio was very popular, they would have movies that you would listen to.
Danced together 3 or 4 times. The last time she almost fell down, but she seemed to enjoy it.
Where was she?
Flirting with her buddy.
Did you leave the canteen, Corporal?
10 o'clock.
Let me ask you again, where were you at midnight?
We have confirmed that the corporal checked in at the Lockheed Terminal in Burbank.
To the military and the Hollywood canteen. The military and the studios were the biggest players in Los Angeles during the war. Could either of them have...
So as you can see, there's a person speaking about the issue, and then they have actors that reenact the way that, things played out. So it's really, really interesting. And Hollywood and Crime, as you can hear by the snippet, it is about Hollywood murders or Los Angeles murders that happened between the years 1940s and 1950s, at least so far. It has to do with the Black Dahlia, this series in particular, because there were a lot of murders back then that were basically not as popular as the Black Dahlia. The Black Dahlia is one of the most famous murders in Los Angeles. And if you guys want to read about the Black Dahlia, you can. I'm not even going to link it down below because it's very, very gruesome. The one that you just listened to was Generous Georgette. There was one called the White Gardenia. There were just a lot of different ones. So if you guys like those kind of things, then definitely check out Hollywood and Crime. Number 2 is Unsolved Murders, which is very, very similar to Hollywood and Crime, meaning that there is someone speaking about it, and then there is actors reenacting the voices and things like that of the situation. And Unsolved Mysteries is kind of the same as Hollywood and Crime, where they can't figure out who did it, kind of a situation. And so Unsolved Murders is a lot longer. It's about an hour an episode. The Hollywood and Crime is 30 minutes an episode. And at the moment I'm listening to the Zodiac Killer, which was a very, 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 very famous story here in San Francisco Bay Area. There was a guy running around in a white Chevy killing teenagers, and he would leave really ominous notes to San Francisco Chronicle and things like that in the late 60s. Well, they said it started all the way from the early 60s, but it was still the late 60s. And they never found the guy, so the guy could seriously still be alive, you guys. They think they found him because I remember they made a movie called Zodiac, which was about the Zodiac Killer. If you guys want to watch, that was a legit movie in the theater. So you know how fast I ran to go see that, real fast, because I'm interested in this kind of stuff. So that's what Unsolved Murders is about. So they have the Zodiac Killer. Let me see what other ones. I haven't listened to any other ones besides their newest one that they're doing right now and Zodiac Killer, but they have ones called Lizzie Borden, Mary Pinchot, Georgette. Oh, they also have Georgette Borodorf, which is the one in the other one, but this one's longer, so that's really exciting. Edgar Allan Poe, William Goebel. They have they have the Black Dahlia on here too. Hey, Elizabeth Short. I'm about to listen to that one next, okay? But yeah, you guys might think it's weird, but I find it to be a story, which is really sad because this is realistically about people who have passed away, but it's very interesting that they weren't ever able to find anybody. So anyways, that's what Unsolved Murders is about. So if you guys are into Unsolved Mysteries, remember that show Unsolved Mysteries? It's literally the same thing but in radio form. So I really, really like that one. The next one is Nothing with True Crime. These are the more weird ones that I like to listen to. The first one is Weird Things Podcast. And the Weird Things podcast I've been listening to since I was probably 20 years old. That was my first weird podcast that I ever found. That was actually one of the first podcasts that I ever listened to. My ex-boyfriend actually turned me on to podcasts. He was like, "You're not listening to podcasts, you need to listen to podcasts." And I was like, okay girl, let me go listen to these podcasts. And I love it. They basically, so it's 3 guys. It's Andrew Main, I already know them all. Andrew Main, Brian Brushwood, and Justin Robert Young, and they are 3 hosts of this show. So they like to look at weird stories, like there'll be one about Bigfoot, and they'll kind of go into it and put their own scenario. So what they do is, like in the beginning, at least they kind of started doing it again. They stopped for a while, and they started doing it again where they will find a news article, and then they will pretend that they're the people in it, or they'll find like a video and they'll pretend that they're the people in it, not like a story like the true crime and stuff. They'll just talk about it, like they're sitting around on a table, or sometimes they're remote, and they'll be like, okay, so you're this person, and then you're what would you do? And then they would like try to figure out scenarios on how to like fix the problem, and then at the end of their scenario, the guy will come. It's usually Andrew that does it. I believe he's the one that normally does it. He's like, okay, no, so this is what happened, and then everyone will be like, oh my god, and then they go into like this scientific, like they talk about some science stuff. They talk about NASA, they talk about aliens, they talk about chupacabras, they talk about like anything. Like they talk about weird lights in the sky. Like they're very like not urban legend-y. They take it to another level where they're like put themselves in the situation, like what would you do type situation. And it's always really fun because it's like they're talking about a story, and then like you get really into it. So I really love weird things, if you guys like that kind of stuff. Also, Andrew Main is an author as well. He does like mini sci-fi books, which I think is kind of cool. And then the last podcast I'm going to talk about today is called, it's like my favorite podcast. It's called Just a Story Podcast, and it is literally my favorite podcast. It's such a young podcast, actually. It's only a year old, and a little bit over a year old. And I've been listening to it about 6 months, maybe 5 months, something like that. I'm very new to the podcast. It's very urban legend. It's literally an urban legend podcast. It talks about all these urban legends. I'll give you a few examples. I'm looking right here. Is Baby It's a Wild World, and that one's all about like people who grow up with the wolves, and they go into like some stories like Mowgli and stuff like that, and they find real life experiences or people that have claimed to do that, and they'll like read articles and stuff. It's very interesting. My favorite one is Let It Go Ice Cream. My favorite one is Let It Go Ice Queen, and that's all about like people with, it talks about women with very stone cold hearts, and then they go into like this Russian story, and I'm a little biased because I'm like, finally someone's talking about Russian things. I mean, so there's one, like they talk about like Japanese urban legends. There's a lot of Japanese urban legends. One of them is the slit mouth woman, and they go into like the theories, and they go into like real life stories. So that is everything for this video. I hope you guys found out about some podcasts you may not be listening to that you might find interesting. Please be sure to stay tuned because I have 2 more podcast episodes coming out. I'm going to be talking about my favorite fandom ones and my favorite beauty lifestyle ones as well. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please make sure to give it a huge thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Join the Briar Patch Fan Bam. We have fun here all the time. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.